Hey, besties and bosses, happy Friday. How's everyone doing? I keep dropping offline, so hopefully this time this will work. So I hope everyone who celebrates Thanksgiving had a lovely and wonderful Thanksgiving, and I am definitely grateful to have all of you here today. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit more about. I wanted to talk a little bit more about gratitude today, particularly those times when we're not feeling so grateful. Because I think we've all probably heard, and I know I mentioned in one of the posts, that gratitude is incredibly powerful. It is one of the most proven ways that we can boost our happiness. It can help us reduce our stress levels. It can reduce, actually, it's been shown to reduce cortisol, which is the stress hormone in our body. It can improve our immune system. It can improve our relationships. It can boost our creativity. There are just so many benefits to gratitude. But what about those times when we're not so grateful, when we're feeling a little pissed off, when something's happened and we're not feeling so great about it? Should we just suck it up and be grateful, or should we just look to the gratitude in those situations? And my answer to that is not always. I don't think that gratitude is always the answer, at least not right away or not as our first go-to. So hear me out on that. Here's what I mean by that. So I'm going to use a situation in my life as an example. So about a week or so ago, my guy and I were going out for coffee. We were having to walk through the city, and he was talking to me about a situation that was coming up for him at work. And after he shared it with me, he looked at me and he said, "So what do you think? Do you think I should be just grateful here, be grateful that I have a job and just suck it up? Or do you think I should hold my ground and make a point here?" And I thought it was a really great question, and my answer was both. And before you think that isn't possible, we all have the capability to hold more than one idea that is dissimilar in our mind at the same time. This is something that some people consider to be a form of evolved thinking or intelligence. I think there's a quote floating around about that, but we all do this, and we do this all the time. And I think with gratitude, we can dislike a situation or dislike something and still find aspects within it or aspects of ourselves in it to be grateful for. And that's part of what I'm going to be talking about here. Anyway, so back to this situation that my guy was telling me about. I think it's tempting to just look at something like that and say, well, just be grateful. Be grateful for what you have, and to call it a day and to call it that. But when we do this, we're not really getting all those benefits from gratitude, because we're whitewashing. We are bypassing some of our emotions, and we are repressing or bypassing some of a situation that might need to be looked at. I think with gratitude, we really need to be mindful as to where we place our gratitude. So gratitude it's not emotional duct tape. Gratitude isn't just something we can use as a form of positivity to just positive our way through life, or to avoid looking at situations or people that might be toxic, or to avoid setting healthy boundaries, or to gloss over important issues. And I think because gratitude has been getting so much press, especially with Thanksgiving, but just in general, it is definitely positive psychology's little darling. It's getting, and for good reason. There really are so many benefits, and I'm not saying don't practice gratitude, so hear me on this. That's what I'm saying. But I think when something gets that much press that it's so good for us, it's easy to think that it's the first thing we should jump to. And particularly with emotions and situations in our life, if we just jump to gratitude, we just jump to looking to that, it can, my light's going away. It can really halt our emotional growth. It can halt our progress in life, because it ends up becoming a scapegoat, or it ends up becoming a crutch we use as a way to avoid situations in our life or avoid dealing with emotions. So our emotions that we have, they act as a compass, and they let us know when something isn't going right. Now, often our emotions are misappropriated, and often they are not matched up to what's really happening, and they're based on previous experiences or previous memories we have. That is absolutely true. However, if we're feeling them, there's still something we need to address, and there's still something we need to look at before we move on to just jumping into gratitude. And when we jump right to gratitude, sometimes we're avoiding looking at whatever the actual situation is, or those underlying situations are. So, for example, with my guy's situation here, I think the first step here is actually addressing what is the situation, what's the problem, and getting clear on that. And then the second step is looking for a solution. Now, when we do this, we're actually So when we have emotions like stress or anger, our brain goes into the reptilian portion of our brain. This is where fight or flight happens. All the blood goes there, and it goes out of the rational thinking part of our brain. So we are all of a sudden reacting from old memories, from our subconscious. We're just in that reactive mode. And when we pause and we address a problem, or we address a situation, and we also look for a solution, we tap into a part of our brain that is responsible for problem solving. It's responsible for creativity, and it actually takes some of that blood and that focus out of that reptilian part of our brain. So this is a very powerful thing to do, and this is also how we can begin to shift our mind and begin to shift our patterns and just even the wiring in our brain there. So it's a very powerful way to shift out of things. So when we have a situation, if we do that first, we're not glossing over something, and we can actually tap into another part of our brain and begin to start to create new neural nets there, which is, I'm geeking out a little here, but that's pretty powerful. And I think in general, we want to do that first when we're feeling triggered by something, instead of jumping right to gratitude. Now with my guy's situation, after we've identified that problem and we've looked for that solution, I think then is the time to look for gratitude and to add that gratitude as a final step, because that's when we can get all of those powerful benefits. And then we're actually hanging out in a different part of our brain. So we're hanging out in that part of our brain that houses our creativity, that houses our problem solving, that houses our rational thinking. So it's also easier to see the gratitude in a situation and to reap those benefits. Particularly if we have been feeling those stress hormones, we can use gratitude then as a way to lower the cortisol in our body. So if we use that as a final step, we're still getting the benefits, but we're not just washing over or ignoring a situation or an emotion that needs addressing. I think that's a really important distinction there. So my guy's situation, if he first addresses the problem and then looks for that solution, and then you can turn to gratitude. And gratitude doesn't have to be for the actual situation. If a situation is something where it is a toxic person or a toxic situation, we can find gratitude within ourselves for how we're addressing a situation. We can find gratitude perhaps for having a new perspective or having a new idea. We can choose to find gratitude, for example, for allowing the situation to give us a way to create change or to come up with a new solution. So I think there's lots of ways we can use gratitude that don't have to be a form of just glossing over a situation, where we can actually find gratitude within ourselves, even if it's a situation that isn't positive. We'll say positive because positive is just a perspective anyway. So that's what I want to talk about today, because I do think gratitude is so important. I think gratitude is so powerful. There's so many benefits to it. But who just joined? Hey, I think that's Belinda. Hey, Belinda. But I do think with gratitude, it is so important that we are mindful with how we use it, and that we don't just use a blanket approach, and that we're not just grateful for everything without some of that thought behind it. And then we don't use it as a scapegoat, or then we don't use gratitude as a way just to avoid dealing with those important emotions and those situations in our lives. So that is what I've got for you today on gratitude. If that resonates, I'd love to know if you're watching this on the replay as well. And if you have any questions about that, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about, or just gratitude in general, or how to practice gratitude, definitely let me know below. And I also want to share, I am obviously so grateful to have all of you here. This work is my life's passion. This is what I am obsessed with, and I'm so grateful to be able to share all of this with you and to have all of you here. And since it's Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all the holiday things and deals, I was trying to think of what would be a nice way to show my gratitude and what would be appropriate. And I have a self-study course called Get Unstuck, Unlock Your Success that goes through our mindset, how it affects our success, and it also goes through 6 of the common mindset blocks I see with my one-on-one coaching clients that I also see with myself come up. And it goes through what those mindset blocks are, how they show up, how we can identify them, and then there are 6 activity sheets that dive deeper into each of them to help gain that awareness around them and begin to shift those mindsets. So I usually sell this course on my website for $99, and through Monday at midnight, I'm going to have it at $67. That was my launch price. So I thought that would be a fun Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale. So there's a link for you for that if you're interested in that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me as well. You can pop those here or send me a private message. I'm good with that as well. So thank you for being here. I hope this was helpful today, just to share a little bit of a different perspective on gratitude and how to get the most from it. and I'm wishing you all a lovely, lovely weekend. I'm off now. I'm going to go enjoy my long weekend and go out in the city. Sending love.